Hello friends, welcome back to another off-the-cuff ramble with me, FPL Mez. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing with you how my game week 5 went. There's been plenty of benching woes. However, I'm also on a 5-week green arrow streak. I've just hit 15.2k overall rank, so grab your drinks and snacks and enjoy the episode. Oh my gosh, where do I even start? So going into game week 5, I knew there was going to be at least one player in my team that could be benched or may not feature at all. I thought that was going to be Isak, given that he had a toe injury and an eye injury. However, we then saw that he trained. At that point, I was slightly reassured that everything's going to be okay, but then I heard about João Pedro potentially being benched. Now, I couldn't have both of my forward spots there. I mean, obviously, I've got Haaland up front as well. But in the other two positions, I couldn't have both of them being benched. So I started looking up like what my options were. And ideally, I would have been able to go Isak to Watkins, but I was off by like 0.1 mil, which is absolutely ridiculous and very frustrating. But the other options I had was to go Isak to Jackson or go Isak to Solanke. With João Pedro, unfortunately, there weren't many options and I didn't have that much money in the bank either. Now, right towards the end of the deadline, I then heard rumours about Jota being benched. At that point, I was like, you know what, sod it. I'm just going to roll the dice and roll my transfer and hope that maybe one, two, at least, but two of them will feature and everything's going to be okay. Now, I didn't have decent bench cover. It was okay, like it wasn't that bad, but I really wanted to roll my transfer so that I could have 2 free transfers going into game week 6. Now, before I talk to you about how my game week 5 went and the overall scores and things like that, I'm just going to talk to you about my bus team going into game week 5 very quickly and some of the thoughts that I had as well. So my bus team, not too different to what I ended up going with. I think the only change that I had in my bus team versus my final team was that instead of playing Robinson, I played Gabriel. So I learnt from my game week 4 where I benched Gabriel and got his jammy 15 points off the bench. But this time around, I decided to play Gabriel. Now, given Arsenal have just been so good defensively, I kind of expected that fixture against City to go 0-0. And at the most, it probably would have been 1-1, and maybe Gabriel would have got some returns there. So I was really sort of punting on that Gabriel would probably get another return, and I'm so glad that he did. Now, looking at my bus team as well, I knew Isak and João Pedro were flagged in the side, so yeah, there was always going to be that risk there, and I had thought about removing them, but decided to just roll the transfer. I did captain Mo. I was thinking about Haaland, given Haaland can score against absolutely any team. Yeah, but I ended up going with Mo. It just seemed like the better captaincy pick this game week. And of course, I ended up playing Gabriel as well. So those were some of my pre-game week thoughts going into game week 5. Now, if I talk to you about how my game week 5 went, and I'll read out my team as well for audio listeners. So game week 5, I ended up getting 73 points overall. Really happy with the total score of points that I got this game week. Even though it was exactly the safety score that I was aiming for this game week as well. So yeah, it was pretty tough. It just goes to show how well so many teams around me had done in game week 5. But if I read out my teams, I got Henderson in goal and he finally got a 9-point return. I'm so happy because if I do wildcard, I had been thinking about removing Henderson. So yeah, I'm really glad that he got me 9 points there. But in my defense line, I had Pedro Porro and only getting 2 points. I had Trent with 11 points. Really happy that Trent got a double-digit return there finally. Gabriel getting me 7 points. Such a good jammy goal there from Gabriel. You can really tell that Arsenal are a very good elite, defence, but also that they have been focusing a bit of attention on their, set pieces as well. And Gabriel's just been a really good set piece threat as well. So, yeah, really happy with that. I had Jota in my midfield, but then I had Robinson coming off the bench as an auto sub for Jota. Jota got benched. really sucks that he didn't come on at all, because Jota coming on for even like 10, 15 minutes and a bit of, extra time to after 90 minutes is quite a threat as well. So unfortunately, Jota didn't feature at all. But on the flip side, Darwin got a goal. So I'm really happy for Darwin, given that he hadn't started any matches this season for us. And he got his goal as well. So really glad that he was off the mark this season in the Premier League. So yeah, really pleased for him. It does mean that Jota may not feature in the next fixture against Wolves. So, I mean, given that Darwin got a goal there, it's very likely that Jota may end up playing in the UCL. I think we'll have to see how things go in the Carabao Cup this week and go from there. Anyway, so Jota didn't feature, obviously a benching risk now, minutes risk now as well, so we'll have to watch that one. Rogers finally got some returns, really pleased about that. Like, he's just been teasing us all season so far, so really glad that he got me 10 points. Smith Rowe has probably been one of the most consistent players in my team as well. He got 8 points, really happy about that. Mo captaincy wasn't that good. I'm really gutted that he only got 6 points there, and so 12 points overall with the captaincy. Could have had so much more. So yeah, a little bit disappointed about that. I had Haaland's 9-pointer. Really glad that he got a goal. Like I mentioned, he could easily get goals against any team. And he just got the one goal there, but it worked against me as well. So given that there would have been lots of managers who went with Haaland captaincy. Isak and João Pedro, gosh, I'm so disappointed. So Isak, even though Isak started, he only got 2 points. And then João Pedro, who featured like 80 minutes in or something like that, just getting me 1 point. So yeah, very disappointed about that. Couple of my post-game week thoughts. I've got a weak bench. João Pedro transfer has totally flopped. So I brought in João Pedro for game week 4. He didn't feature in game week 4. And then he came on around that 80-minute mark in game week 5. So yeah, very disappointed about that. Isak and Newcastle have just been disappointing overall. They're not on form at the moment. Really frustrating to have. And in hindsight, I would have taken out Isak and just brought in Solanke or Jackson, the two players that I was considering there. And the only other thought that I had coming out of this game week was, do I hit Wildcard 6 and reset and continue some of the momentum that I have had as well? So just taking a look at a couple of other bits of data as well. So Henderson was the star of the show for me. It gained me like 8.31 points. Really pleased about that. João Pedro was the flop. And Luis Diaz, who got 16 points, was the killer for me this game week, unfortunately. Funny thing was, when João Pedro hadn't featured, I was thinking, actually, I wouldn't mind Winks' 2 points coming off the bench instead of, João Pedro's 1-pointer. You can see there that Winks would have given me 6,825 places, for each point that he scored. And João Pedro was only 4,454. So Winks' 2 points was definitely better than João Pedro's 1 point there. But anyway, he ended up featuring, which was a real pain. But look, overall, I was previously ranked 18,500 roughly, and now I'm ranked just over 15,000. So really happy with the start that I've had this season. Like I mentioned, my safety score was really high, 73 points. So it just goes to show that the managers around me had really good game week as well. But looking at my where I am in terms of rank, as mentioned in my previous videos as well, it's very early on in the season, and so everyone is still very tightly packed. So you can see there, I'm only 4 points away from 10k, and I'm only minus 4 points away from 25k. So it is very, very tight there. 50k, we're looking at about 18 points, 11 points away. So as mentioned, yeah, it is pretty tightly packed, and so you can easily make up the ranks there. I actually did a very short video on YouTube on how you can make up the ranks. I'll try and sort of link it in over here somewhere. And in that video, I sort of speak to how I was ranked around 4 million, 3 million last season around this sort of time, and how I managed to finish the season around 64,000 overall. So, yeah, look, it can be done. So looking at the upcoming fixtures, I have activated my wildcard. I feel like my bench is a little bit weak. There are a couple of players in my team that I feel like I could do without. They're problematic. So Isak, for instance, I probably would have held on to if I was bringing in some Arsenal players. They would have been in the midfield. However, I've now got some forward spots that are a bit of an issue as well. I'm not sure if I want to hold on to João Pedro as well. So now I'm looking at about 7 to 9 players that I'd probably want to switch over in my team. Now, at that point, that it's definitely wildcard territory. So whilst I could just roll my transfers, and I've got 2 free transfers going into game week 6, I feel like I can set up better for some of the teams that have really good fixtures coming up. And there is a bit of a fixture swing coming up as well. So I think going into this game week, I was in two minds about it, whether I activate the wildcard or not. But I'm feeling a little bit more confident about playing my wild card. So in my team and in my case, I feel like it's a really good position to be in and to just play the wild card. Now, in terms of playing the wild card, you don't have to play the wild card only when you're in a terrible place or your team is doing terribly. In my case, my team is doing okay. I've had some really good game weeks. I'm on a 4 game weeks Green Arrow streak as well. I really couldn't complain about how my season is going, but I think it's more strategic for me to set up for the next 5 to 10 game weeks with the intent of just rolling my free transfers. So if I just play my wildcard now, it means that I'm just maintaining some of that momentum and just setting up for success for the next at least 5 game weeks. And so, yeah, I decided to just activate my wildcard and go for it. Now, I will probably do a separate video for my wildcard draft and a final team selection. But what I've done is put together a very initial wildcard drafting. So a couple of drafts where I'm thinking, some of the players that I would definitely want to have in the team. And so I've got 2 wildcard drafts on my screen at the moment. And I'm just going to read out one of them and just speak to some of the changes that I've got in the second wildcard draft there. And also mention some of the nailed players that I think will feature in my wildcard as well. So my wildcard draft has Raya in goal. It's got Trent, Gabriel, and Lewis in defence. I've got Palmer, Rodgers, Mbeumo, and Saka in midfield. I've got Wood, Haaland, and Calvert-Lewin up front. And on my bench, I would have, for game week 6 anyway, I would have Fabianski, Robinson, Dibbling, and Greaves. And so the only changes that I may think about making, there's only really 4 spots where I'm thinking they could probably change, or 5 spots actually. So Lewis and Robinson could probably switch over to Konsa, could be Aina. It could be that I bring in Pinnock even, given that Brentford have some good fixtures coming up as well. In the midfield, Palmer and Foden. So Foden is an option as well, although he didn't start against Arsenal, which was a real shame. I'm looking out for which City midfielder to bring in at the moment. And given I can afford to get someone who's over 9 mil, I'm thinking maybe a Foden, maybe KDB becomes an option a little bit later as well. I'm not sure. I need to really check on, where his injury is at and how quickly he's going to be back in the team as well. So, or I just stick with Luis Diaz, given that Diaz is on form as well. They've got a really good fixture coming up against Wolves. I have removed Salah from the team, so it does sort of open up the opportunity to bring in 2 premium, midfielders, and then keep Rodgers and bring in Mbeumo as well. It's a similar sort of position with my forward line as well. So Haaland would stay in the team, just given the format that he's on. It's a bit of a defensive pick for me as well. I'm not sure if I feel very gutsy to go without Haaland at the moment. But the options are quite broad anyway. So I've got like Wood could be a really good option, Calvert-Lewin could be an option, Solanke is an option, Vardy's an option. So yeah, there's a couple of options there that I can play around with. Even Jackson, I could bring in Jackson and not have Palmer, for example. So yeah, there's a couple of variations too that I can probably work with there. But the nailed players in my team that I'm really keen to keep in the team are Raya, Trent, Gabriel, Rodgers, Mbumo, Saka, and Haaland. And then on the bench, Greaves just for the attacking threat that Ipswich have. Dibbling has just looked really, really good. He got some returns on the weekend as well. So, yeah, I feel like that 4.5 midfield spot could be a really good one for Dibbling there. And then Fabianski, because Areola is an injury or just a poor game week away from being swapped out by Fabianski in the West Ham side. So there you have it. There's a couple of like that initial wildcard thinking that I've got in my mind at the moment that I wanted to share with you. And as I mentioned, I'll probably do a separate video and a team selection for my final wildcard. So there you have it. That's how my game week 5 went. I'd love to hear about how your game week went and what your plans are for game week 6 as well. Please do leave me a comment. I love receiving your messages and I'll always respond to you as well. So let me know how you got on. As I mentioned, I have activated my wildcard for game week 6 and I will share my final wildcard draft and my team selection towards the end of this week. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. I really do appreciate your support. Please do like this video. Please do subscribe if you're tuning in for the first time as well. Until next time, take it easy and I'll catch you in the next one.